show starts in 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, go.
Hello, I'm Ron Frazier, and this is the Just Never Know podcast. And I'm joined today with an amazing guest. What a story. If you love history, you love mystery, this guy's been down that road. It's an interesting story. Could the FBI steal 7 to 9 tons of gold and not report it? Let's talk to one of the main men, Kem Parada, half the team of Finders Keepers USA, with his father, Dennis. Dennis was unable to be here today, but he's half this team. How you doing, Kem?
Doing good, Ron. How you been?
I'm doing great, buddy. Thanks for joining me today. What a story.
Oh, yes, it is.
I mean, you guys have been involved with, you've been on the History Channel with Unexplained, America's Lost Treasures. You've been on the Discovery Channel, the Travel Channel, and probably others I'm leaving out.
Oh,
But
yeah.
yeah, I mean, you guys, I give you credit, man. I'll tell you what, I watched you on them shows and I was like, geez, my goodness. I mean, it's just like you go down one rabbit hole and you're finding another rabbit hole. That's kind of, it just keeps bringing the audience in. But hey, let's talk about this Civil War. We can go back to actually the beginning of the story. 1863 Civil War era. Gold lost or stolen. You can kind of give the background stories of what they may be as well.
So, there's been several different stories written about this gold shipment, and some of the stories say there was 26 bars of gold. Others say there were 52. The main common parts, though, is there was allegedly a wagon train that was coming up from Wheeling, West Virginia, heading out east to the mint with some gold in it to be refined and to help pay for the war effort. It was documented that the wagon had false bottoms. I believe there was 26 bars of gold per wagon. Two wagons would make the 52 bars of gold. Needless to say, they were going out east, and to avoid the Battle of Gettysburg that was breaking out, they had to make an arch through Pennsylvania, just far enough north to avoid the Battle of Gettysburg and any Confederate soldiers. Uh, they started off. It was reported that the only person that knew about the false bottoms and the wagons with the gold bars was the lieutenant. None of the soldiers, nobody knew about it. It was reported that a civilian tour guide known as Connors was leading the expedition. And at some point, when they got around St. Mary's area, the lieutenant came down with an illness. He started to, knew he wasn't going to make the trip. So he started to tell the guys, "Hey, you need to get this wagon train there. This is the secret cargo." Once the wagon train left St. Mary's area, they were never seen again. They were supposed to make it another 3-4 days journey. A week later, Connor staggered into the destination and started rambling on about being ambushed and how they were killed off and the soldiers were, all dead and the gold was stolen. And nobody really believed him. The Pinkerton went out. They were investigating it. They found the dead bodies. They found the wagon train, but they never found any gold. They were disguised. The Pinkerton was disguised as like hunters, lumberjacks, stuff like that, just blending into the scenery. There was rumors that half a bar of gold was found here or there, or somebody had a gold bar in their bedroom, but no one's ever actually came out and said, "Oh yeah, hey," and shown an actual gold bar or even a chunk of it. So, it was kept quiet for almost 100 years, and in 1972, 73, I can't remember exactly which year, my dad was working for a company called WT Grants. And I guess back then it was kind of like a Walmart. It was a multi-department store. And they used to bring in celebrities as promotional gigs. So this one day, they brought a psychic in. My dad didn't believe in psychics. Didn't want anything to do with them. He him and his coworkers were told, when these promotional gigs, when they're there, you're not supposed to interact with them. Just let them do their thing. You guys just focus on selling furniture and whatever it is you do in your department. So on their break, my dad and his coworkers were back in the break room, and they were already actively researching this lost gold. Just that they didn't know where to look. They knew it was somewhere in the area of Dent Run, but they were back there. They had atlases out. They had the story. They were reading up on it, and the psychic came and walked over to them and said, "Hey, what you guys looking at?" And one of my dad's coworkers said about this gold and says, "Can you do anything?" The psychic says, "I don't know. I've never tried it." I mean, he was always more of the stage delusionist term. Never really did a whole lot of psychic work. So he sat down. He started speed reading through the magazine, reading up on it, and my dad was standing behind him. And I guess the psychic, his eyes rolled back or up into his head, and he started talking in these different voices, and it was supposed to be the voices of these soldiers. So he came out of this trance, grabbed my dad's atlas, grabbed a pen, and my dad, he'll even tell you, he's very, um, not possessive, but like cautious and protective of his stuff. So he's like, "What are you doing with my map?" And the psychic looked up at the ceiling. I don't remember if his eyes rolled back in his head again, but he came down with the pen and stabbed right indentation on the map. And my dad came around. Everybody was looking. Uh, the psychic looked at my dad, called him by name. Now, granted, he probably had a name tag on, but my dad doesn't think he did. Psychic said, "Denny, I want you to go to this area, take 5 dirt samples all around the mountain." My dad's like, "What?" Psychic says, "I'm telling you, go there, take 5 dirt samples, don't touch it, use a wooden spoon, put them in a butter dish, put the dirt in there." He goes, "I want you to mark number 1 and then put number 1 on the map where you got it. Go to another part of the mountain, do 2, 3, 4, 5, just like that." He said, "Get in touch with me afterwards, and I'll see what I can do." So they parted ways, and this was the W.T. Grants in Phillipsburg, Pennsylvania at the time. So my dad, who had a 1969 white Corvette, him and one of his coworkers, they went out to this mountain and they were doing clay mining. And my dad was so dedicated or committed to A, trying to find this treasure, and B, prove that psychics are fake. So he goes out there, takes 5 dirt samples, marks them on the map, says, "I'm going to trick this guy," goes home, takes 3 dirt samples out of his dad's garden, marks them 6, 7, and 8, and just puts 6, 7, and 8 randomly on the map. So he called up the psychic, and this was back in the early 70s, like I said. Calls him up, and psychic says, "Hey, I'll be at the W.T. Grants in St. Mary's," ironically. He says, "I'll be up there tomorrow." So my dad drives up there with one of his coworkers. The coworker goes inside, gets the psychic, comes out. So my dad has all these dirt samples on the passenger floorboard. The psychic comes out, sits down on the passenger seat of this Corvette, has his butt on the seat, his feet are out the door on the pavement. So he's kind of like sitting sideways. My dad is standing beside the car. The psychic takes his right hand, grabs my dad's left hand. Psychic takes his left hand, waves him over the dirt samples that are on the passenger floorboard, pulls out 6, 7, and 8, and says, "These have nothing to do with this." Blew my dad's mind. He's like, like, that was good. So, as he's still holding on to my dad's hand, he waves his hand over again, pulls out number 5, dirt sample number 5, and says, "Wherever you got the number 5 from, you were within 500 feet of the cave." Or he said you were within 500 feet of the gold. And my dad's like, "What?" And the psychic says, "I'm telling you, go back to this location, look off to your left. You'll see a mountain with a hole through it." My dad's like, "What do you mean a mountain with a hole through it?" And psychic says, "I don't know. I'm just telling you what I see. There's a mountain with a hole through it. So many degrees back on the mountain that you're currently on, That's where the cave is at. The gold is in the cave. It's underwater, and there's baby snakes. My dad's like, um. So he's kind of freaked out because he's like, well, I know they're doing clay mining or maybe coal mining. Like it's probably an old abandoned coal shaft or something, and it's filled up with water. And up there that is rattlesnake and copperhead area. So he went back up there in the 70s and could never find a cave. He looked and looked and looked, couldn't find a cave. The psychic told him, when you find the cave, give me a call. And he never found a cave. So
And this was like around 1975.
it was about 1973. I want to say, I can't remember if it was 73 or 74 right now, but it was the early 70s. And of course, back then, they didn't have the metal detecting technology that we have available to us today. So
Right.
that was just a dead issue.
Okay.
Um, so I was born in 1985. I grew up hearing this story of this psychic and this prediction of this gold, and that's all I ever heard about. It was like a bedtime story. And I always kept telling him, I said, Dad, let's go see if we can find it. Dad, let's go up there. Dad. And he's like, no, no, no. It's on state game land. It costs too much money. It's an old abandoned mine shaft, and there's snakes, and he says it's not worth it. No, no, no. So I was like, all right. Um, went about my life. Uh, graduated high school in '03. Started college in the fall of '03. And I always thought we started it in November of 2004. Uh, it may have been November of 2003, but I'd have to look at the documents. One of those Novembers. Uh, my dad, who's self-employed as a landlord, he has renters, and he always told this story to renters over and over and over. And for some reason, this guy says, "Hey, let's go up and see if we can find that." And my dad says, "Okay, let's do it." Kind of ticked me off. I spent my whole life telling him like that, let's go, but no. So him and this renter, they go up, and the road that my dad drove up, it was for the clay mines, at the clay mine, they put in, they bulldozed it and everything. It's now grown over. It's all state game land. Nobody's allowed to drive up there or anything. So they have to park at the bottom of the mountain, and they hike up this old road. And they get up there to where my dad had the Corvette parked and took dirt sample number 5. And I'm sorry, Let's back. So back in the '70s, when my dad went up there looking for the cave, he went up there, and when he looked over the mountain with the hole through it, when he looked over there, sure as heck, there was a mountain, but there was no hole through it. It was the way the rocks were positioned, and when you lined up with them perfectly, it looked like it had a hole through it. Even though they were staggered, it looked like a hole through it. So that's like, oh my god, how could the psychic know this? And but when he went so many degrees and everything, he could never find a cave. So anyway, so he's up there with this renter. His name was Scott. He told Scott, "This is where I got dirt sample number 5 from. Over there on the mountain. That was the mountain with a hole through it, which it's not there anymore. It just looks like a regular mountain. The strippings are done and everything, the mining." Uh, but he walked up 500 feet, and there's like a old dried up riverbed, like a ravine or a valley there. And my dad told Scott, he said, somewhere around here there's supposed to be a cave. He said, I don't know. Scott says, well, I'm going to go down the mountain. My dad says, you're wasting your time. There's nothing down there. I'm going to go up the mountain. And he said, all right. So they parted ways. Well, that road went over top of this massive boulder. And as Scott came down around the front of the boulder, he started yelling, there was a cave there. Uh, yeah, like it blew my dad's mind. He's like, what? He's like, I was here back in the '70s. Why wasn't this cave here? Well, when they put that access road in, the bulldozer pushed all the dirt over the face of the cave, over the face of the boulder, and it closed up the cave and sealed it up. That's why my dad could never find it. Through the time with erosion and everything, like I said, it was an old dried up riverbed. it actually eroded and opened up the cave. And the cave was only about 2, maybe 3 feet clearance from ground to the top. And we were looking in there, and it went back. Well, my dad and Scott was it went back. So they came and got me. They came back home. They told me they found the cave. That's when I found out my dad went up there, and I was kind of pee off, ticked off. Like, what the heck? I wanted to go up there. I wanted to help you. But no, we got flashlights and lanterns and everything, and we went up there, and we had to get on our stomachs and crawl into this cave. And we went back probably about 10, 15 feet. I can't, maybe about 15 feet. We went back, and my dad started taking dirt samples. And I was like, Dad, what are you doing? He says, I'm going to see if I can find that psychic. I started laughing. I was like, it was 30 years ago. And he goes, no, he goes, I'm gonna see if I can find him. So he's taking dirt samples. And we came back, and he remembered. He goes, I remember going there in the early '70s. He goes, I went up there when I got the dirt samples. It was the first day of fishing season, so he was like, it was around April. Because my dad always liked to go fishing the first day of fishing season. He never missed it. Well, that day in the '70s, he missed the first day. He remembers going up there and seeing everybody else fishing. So we're like, all right. So he remember, I'm pretty sure it was 1973. So he's like, April 1973. We went down to the local newspaper and got on the reel to reel with the computer monitor, and we're looking through newspaper clippings and everything. And he found the article from 1973 that listed the psychic coming to W.T. Grant's. Got his name. Before, we never tell anybody his name, but his name was Mike Malley. And he got his name, got his information, everything. This was back in, like I said, 2004. Comes home, calls him up. And now, granted, maybe he had caller ID, but he answers the phone, and my dad says, hello, you're not going to remember me. And the psychic says, you're Denny Parada with the white Corvette looking for the gold. Blew my dad's mind.
You gotta be kidding me.
No, like, not like, granted, like I said, he had caller ID. He could got the name Dennis Parada. But how would he remember the white Corvette? How would he remember the name with the gold hunt 30 years later? Like, it just blew my dad's mind. And he's like, hey, he goes, my dad said, yeah, holy cow, you remember me? And the psychic says, yeah. He goes, I got one question. And my dad said, what's that? Psychic Mike says, what the hell took so long? And my dad's like, I finally found the cave. So my dad and I, we have a YouTube channel, Finders Keepers USA, and everything I've told you up to this point, we did a YouTube video about. My dad's there, he, telling his side of the story and everything. So, I mean, you're more than welcome to go there and check it out. We kind of left the video at a cliffhanger at this point. We wanted to do that. We started this 3 years ago, where we wanted to do our story, telling the segments clip by clip by clip by clip. And we kind of got told not to talk a whole lot more about it because of the whole court proceedings and everything. I'll give you a little bit more detail here, but I'm not going to go into a whole lot of detail. But my dad got the dirt sample to the psychic, and the psychic did whatever it is that he does with it. And he's like, hey, that's the cave. My dad says, what do you mean? He goes, that's the cave. He goes, I'm telling you. He goes, go in the cave, go back 30 feet. And my dad's like, we can't go back 30 feet. It's a dead end. And the psychic says, no, you got to go back. I'm telling you, go straight back. So we go back, and we have like turkey baster pans and ropes tied to them. We're in there on our stomachs. We're digging. We're moving dirt, putting in a turkey baster pan. Somebody drags it out, dumps it, pulls it back in. And I mean, it's illegal to dig on state game land. And from the very beginning, we were open and honest with the government. We would let them know every time we were up there. We would let them know what we were doing. I was going through college. I wanted to, start a career in law enforcement. Obviously, I don't want to be getting her in trouble for digging on state game land or something. So we were honest, told them everything, and we were working with them, and it was going good. We were in the cave. We removed a lot of um, dirt and everything, and we uncovered a man-made wall. It was flat rocks piled up the whole width of the cave. And when we pulled that wall down, there was another room behind there. And we went back beyond that, and we were, moving more dirt and moving more dirt. And after you get tired of laying on your side trying to dig and stuff, we're laying on our backs, and we were looking up, and there was charcoal burnings on the roof of this cave. Like, I mean, this close to my face, I'm looking, and there's charcoal burnings, and there's man-made chiseled holes where they stuck torches at. We're following the charcoal burnings, and it went back to the back of the cave. And the psychic said, you keep going straight back 30 feet, you'll find a vertical shaft. And we're like, there's no vertical shaft. Like, what are you talking about? We end up getting back so far that when we were removing dirt, we opened up an underground spring. And we're like, oh my God, the gold's in a cave and it's underwater. It's not a water filled cave, it's just a natural spring in the cave. And that was eroding. Like, it was going like, it was almost going like white water. Like, it was just rushing out of there. And it pretty much did a lot of the work for us. Like, we didn't have to do a whole lot other than get soaking wet, because now we're laying in a stream of water. And I told my dad, I was like, well, we're in a cave. There, there's water. Like, where the heck are the snakes? Like, we're in a confined area, 2.5, 3 feet clearance. We're in a cave. Like, the last thing I want to do is approach some rattlesnakes. And we kept, looking at, removing dirt, moving dirt around. And my dad's like, this is topsoil. You don't get topsoil in a cave. Where did this topsoil come from? Okay, I don't know. I'm just here digging. And eventually we uncovered earthworms. And I said, Dad, it wasn't baby snakes the psychic was seeing, it was earthworms. And my dad's like, holy shnikes, you're right. Like, massive earthworms inside this cave. So we're like, it's in a cave, it's underwater, there's baby snakes, which turned out to be earthworms. We're like, holy cow. So, it was a tedious process. Eventually, we got in the cave back so far that we got beyond that giant boulder, and it started caving in on us. A vertical shaft caved in on us. How did the psychic know a vertical shaft? Like, it was massive. Not massive, but I mean, like, massive boulders were coming down, like rocks and stuff. Here, when the bulldozer put the access road in, went right over top, filled up this vertical shaft and everything, pushed the dirt down over the cave, sealed it up for all those years. And we just kept working, and eventually, it just got too dangerous with the stuff caving in on us. We were working with the government. Uh, they started to let us work up on top of the ground and trying to drill down, trying to get readings and scans. Using treasure hunting equipment on state game land, people are allowed to go out and do hobbies on state game land. They're allowed to hunt. They're allowed to do hobbies. Treasure hunting is a hobby. So we were allowed to go out there and use our equipment and scan the ground. Like I said, though, you're not allowed to dig on state game land. A little bit of a loophole. There's no laws about digging in a cave on state game land. So we were kind of like, that's how we were getting away with it the whole time. Our attorney was advising us, like, yeah, can't say. And technically, I mean, if you think about it, all we were doing was we were removing dirt from a cave that was put in there by a construction company, and we were restoring it back to its natural environment. But But no, I mean, once we got up on top of the ground and everything, like I said, we were, no digging. We weren't, we had agreement. We could drill. We could use our equipment, and that's what we were doing. We were getting some pretty positive readings. I mean, over the course of 10, 12 years, we used multiple different pieces of treasure hunting equipment, from basic bounty hunter metal detectors to ground penetrating locators, GPL that we have. It uses low voltage electricity. We hired third party contractor companies, came in with ground radar. We have the Trubisky brothers out of Philadelphia. They came in, they helped us with long range locators and their equipment. Uh, like I said, we use psychic, we use map dowsers, we've used dowsing rods, you name it, we've used it. And everything pinpoints the exact same location, the exact same 12 foot by 12 foot area. Gold, 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 silver, gold, gold. Like, it was there. Something was there. Problem is, couldn't get it out of the ground. So we were the state did offer us a digging permit. However, we took it to different places. They didn't offer us a digging permit. They offered us, um, well, the application to get a digging permit and everything, but there was a $50,000 bond that we had to put up. And we took that around to different banks and different places, and we tried to get it bonded. It was an open-ended bond. There was no end to it, so nobody would touch it. And they said, if you can get a closing date on this, they're like, we'll do it. We'll bond it. However, we can never, we would, the state, nobody, just, they don't want to alter it.
Now, this is like 12 years in, right? This is like 12 years in.
Yeah, this has probably been 2000, no, not 12 years in. Heck, this is probably about 2010, 2011, somewhere around there. Because we, at this point, we kind of came at a standstill. We didn't know what to do. The state wouldn't let us dig. Everybody's like, oh, yeah, me and my buddy with a 12 pack of beer, we'll go up there and dig it in one night. No, no, no. We had to go down like 12, 15 feet. It's state game land. There are people that live in the area. We're not going to go up there and just heist it. We never wanted. I mean, yeah, everybody's like, oh, yeah, it'll be nice to have gold. We never. Our main goal was to get the gold back to where it was supposed to go. Get it in a museum. Get it back to the rightful owners. People, the soldiers and stuff, they died for that. We wanted to get back to the rightful owners. And if it goes back to the federal government because the federal government would own the gold bars, then so be it. We just wanted recognition, a finder's fee, something. Problem is, we couldn't get it out of the ground, and that was the worst part, was knowing where it was at and just not being able to get to it. Like I said, I want to say that was like 2009, 2010, could have been 2011, because I know around 2012 is when we went and we started working up in Nova Scotia. And we started focusing 98% of our attention to Nova Scotia. You have any questions so far?
Well, we'll come away from that story. Just kind of tell us the background, since you're up in Nova Scotia, what that time period went, what you were pursuing, and I believe that was that the Discovery Channel or History Channel?
That was the History Channel.
Okay.
Yep. So everybody knows about Curse of Oak Island. Everyone knows all about Oak Island and the story up there. Uh, at the time, we didn't know about the Curse of Oak Island because this was before the TV show came out. This was when they were filming season 1. But we knew about the whole money pit and everything. We knew about it. We knew about the story and the legend. But the native Indian tribe up there, the I'm gonna say it as the Micmac Indian tribe, they always had this legend. And it was a brief synopsis, and it was red haired man came to land on the back of a well. Red haired man built an island. Red haired man left, basically. And could never figure out exactly what that meant. So, doing some research and everything on it, my dad spent a lot of time on Google Maps and just figuring it out. And he stumbled upon Hobson Island. And Hobson Island, it's in the Monaco Bay there, same right where Oak Island is and everything. And on the east coast off the island, there's this long, long thing in the water. And my dad and me and him were talking. We're like, red haired man. I mean, could be like the Vikings or something, like what the heck? Well, back in the 1300s, the Vikings, their ships were seaworthy. Christopher Columbus gets a lot of credit for being the person that discovered the New World, but he didn't discover it. He just got credit for it. Um, a lot of people are, back and forth. They argue, but I mean, we believe that the Vikings were in the New World long before Christopher Columbus.
Oh, I know for a fact them Vikings were even down into Africa, the Mediterranean. They were seaworthy. I
Oh
mean,
yeah. Well, how would you put a red-haired man on the back of a well? I mean, that just sounds like somebody smoking the peace pipe or something. Like riding on a well. Well, a Viking ship turned over. Looks like the back of a well. My dad came up with a pretty solid theory that the Vikings had a ship overturned. They were riding it on top of it, riding the tide in. The mast would have hit the ground first and snapped off. I believe that's what the long structure is to the east of Hobson Island. On Hobson Island, there is a rock formation. Hobson Island is slowly eroding away and it's sinking. But if you look on Google Maps and zoom in, we've had photos of it on our website and everything. There is a rock formation in the exact same shape as a Viking ship, same length, same width. The Vikings back then buried their ships, kind of like a spiritual, thing. So we're like, all right, red-haired man rode in on the back of a well. But how did they build an island? Like, what the heck is that part about? Well, we believe that they crafted a raft. They had all this shipment, all this cargo on this ship, but they needed to get it off this island. So they, believe they crafted a raft, used the tide to get to Oak Island. Like I said, it's not far at all. Pretty much just paddle to it. And if this raft can hold a ton of cargo to go from the ship or from Hobson Island to Oak Island, then they can use a ton of rocks, bring it back and forth. From the Indian tribe that was on mainland looking, they see the red-haired man taking rocks back out to this island. Well, it was to bury the ship. It was a rock formation. From a distance, it would look like they were building an island because they were building it up. So we believe that Oak Island was just pretty much a staging ground until the Vikings knew the inland better, knew what kind of threats and other habitants were there. Don't think there's anything left on Oak Island. We believe that we have a site. It's in New Ross, Nova Scotia. It's 12 miles northwest of Oak Island. There, back in the 60s, 1960s, a lady by the name of Joan Hope, a lot of the people back then used to call her a witch and all sorts of stuff because she uncovered a formation of rocks in her backyard, pretty much in the whole neighborhood. It was basically a castle foundation. And if you would do any research on her or check it out, Joan Hope, I know there was a website called the Hope Library. If you research the Tree of Life, this rock formation in this neighborhood was laid out like the tree of life. And my dad got in touch with her. Well, she has passed away. Got in touch with a representative of her research, and they provided us with a lot of the information. And we wanted to follow up on that castle foundation. So we were putting the dots together, and that's where we came up with the theory that once the Vikings established, or the Knights Templar, which I'll get in on that, once they established, an area up in New Ross, they moved everything from Oak Island to New Ross, is what our theory is. And so me and my dad would travel up to New Ross, up to Nova Scotia in general, pretty regularly. We were going up about 2 times a year doing research. We couldn't get up there all the time, so we ended up having a local resident up there. His name was Patrick Whelan. He would do a lot of the research for us, and he was a main part of this because he went out to Hobson Island, and out of Hobson Island, like I said, is slowly eroding. It's sinking. There's nothing really left up there. It's just rocks. It's just flat rocks at high tide. A lot of the island's covered now, but there's this massive boulder, probably about the size of a 7 by 16 cargo trailer, enclosed. Like, I mean, I'm looking at mine right now out the window. That's why I thought about it. But Patrick went out there, and he started, moving around some of the moss and everything, and started looking, and he found this carving on this rock. And my dad, he took a picture of it and sent it to my dad, and my dad recognized it as the hooked X. Now, Scott Walter, he a geologist and everything, he's done work with like the Kensington Runestone. The Kensington Runestone was discovered out west. It had this hooked X carved on it. Scott Walter did research on it. The hooked X has also been documented to be carved over in like Roslyn Chapel, Roslyn Church, overseas. And basically, it's an X, and there's a little thorn sticking off the top part. So my dad reached out to Scott Walter, sent him pictures, and said, "Hey, I think you should look into this. I mean, it's the hooked X. It's carved here." And ironically, Scott Walter was filming season 1 of America Unearthed for the History Channel, and asked us to be a part of it. Asked us to be on episode 13, which they call it Hunt for the Holy Grail. So whenever we went up to Nova Scotia to do that TV show, we filmed it in October 2012. We we hung out with Scott Walter and LM for a few days, and he told me, he said the bottom part of the hooked X, he believes it to be the symbol for the male. The top part of the X pretty much resembling the female. It's like the vaginal canal. And that little thorn is a symbol for offspring. So I'm thinking that the hooked X, rather, if you think the Holy Grail is the cup, or if it's the bloodline of Christ, that's leading me to believe that it might be the bloodline of Christ, and the hooked X might be the marker showing where the Holy Grail was taken. Not saying I'm right. I'm just saying, hey, I don't know. It kind of makes sense, but regardless what you believe the hooked X to be, or what you believe the Holy Grail to be, we believe that the Knights Templar came over here, possibly with the Vikings, and brought the Holy Grail with them. And that hooked X carving is the symbol, is like markers. So we did the TV show. We went out to Hobson Island with Scott Walter. He looked at it. He's like, yeah, it could be. Um, Over the time with erosion and everything like that, I believe the boulder twisted. And if you ever see the picture, I mean, it looks like the hooked X was carved on there and it got broken off. Um, but needless to say, we went from there, took him to Hobson Island, or not Hobson Island, took him to New Ross, and we went to investigate this well. This well on this property, it's in the backyard of the house that Joan Hope had. It was known as the Holy Well, and it's right inside of the perimeter, the stone wall perimeter. and we have a pretty solid theory that going down the well is an access to an underground chamber. Um, at the time, we were just treasure hunters, just hobbyists up there, you know. But after the TV show, which kind of ends on a little bit of a cliffhanger, after the TV show, our company, Finders Keepers USA, it's an LLC here in United States, but we got it registered as a mining company up in Nova Scotia, and we returned to do a lot more work. And it's been a few years since we've been up there because of the whole Dench Run story, but we were pretty active. We were constantly going up there and doing research, and we're going to return. We're going to return.
Yeah, I mean, you created a whole. I mean, you just had a hornet's nest everywhere. Even with that story, I mean, everybody was looking for it.
Yep.
And so then you got back to the Civil War gold.
Yep. So we're working up in Nova Scotia. You know, I mean, we have other sites in the United States, and we go the whole way down to Virginia, go to Florida. I mean, we're always looking over something. Uh, we get contacted by people all around the world. We get you know hate mail. We get words of confidence. Stuff sent to our house. Like it's insane. People that they send us stuff to our house and they don't put a return address. Like, all right, whatever. A lot of the times we don't even open it. Um, but people contact us and they ask us, hey, my family member, it was, always said he had a jar of nickels and, buffalo nickels buried. Can you help us find it? Can you help? We'll go out, we'll help, people do stuff and help them locate stuff and teach them how to use different pieces of treasure hunting equipment. I mean, that's no problem. We enjoy that stuff. We love helping people.
Right.
But sometimes we get phone calls or hate mail from people that are just out there in left field,
Yeah.
left right field, whatever you want to say. Like, hey, it's just that unfortunately, people out there like that, exist, and we've gotten some death threats and stuff like that. So this one
Well, I
day,
mean, not only did you have the television shows, but you guys were on every news channel, Fox, everywhere. You guys were being well
yeah,
covered by the news, and that's, I think, when you bring the people out of the woodwork.
yes, yes, and like I said, I mean, I got into law enforcement in 2009. I've been a law enforcement officer ever since. Worked for four different departments. The department I'm working at now is the best. I freaking love it. But over my 14, 15 years as a law enforcement officer, I've got trainings and um, mental health and stuff like that. So I mean, I love working with people. I love helping people. It doesn't matter what their physical or mental status is. I'm always there to help somebody. And but anyway, back to the story. We're always getting contacted by people, and we don't want to be mean and just hang up on them and just we'll spend time. We'll try talking to them. Hear their story. Just because people think that someone's crazy doesn't mean that they don't have information. And that's one thing I've learned in law enforcement too, is that you always want to investigate the leads. You get a lead, you want to follow up on it, you want to investigate it. You don't leave any stone unturned. And that's what we do with treasure hunting. So when people call us and they will say, "Hey, I got this information," okay, let me hear what you have to say. So so, so this one day, this guy calls us and he's like, "Hey, my name's Warren Getler, and I think that your Dench Run site is a KGC treasure trove." KGC? Well, what's the KGC? He goes, "Hey, the KGC was the Knights of the Golden Circle. They're Southern sympathizers. It's documented that during the Civil War time, that Jesse James, the outlaw, was a member. John Wilkes Booth was a member. It's why he assassinated Abraham Lincoln. Jesse James, who was this famous outlaw, did all these stagecoach robberies and bank robberies and everything. Never had any money to show for it. Documented he was a member. And we're like, all right, whatever. Like, so what are you trying to say? He's like, well, I think that your dense run site, it's a KGC treasure trove. He goes, I want to come up and investigate it with you. And we're like, well, we can't. I mean, the state, says we can't really do much more work on there. And, our lawyer says that we're allowed to keep trail cameras there, but we can't do any more work other than just basic scanning because it's a hobby. And he goes, what would it take to get that site dug up? And we explained the bond and everything to him. And we said the only thing we could do is to get the FBI involved. And because if it's federal gold, it belongs to the federal government. It's the FBI's gold. If we could get the FBI involved, they could, override the state. And he's like, all right. He goes, well, I'll have you in a meeting with the FBI here in a few days. We laugh. We're like, okay, buddy. Yep. Like, all right. It was good talking to you. And we hung up. So, sure enough, in 2 days, he called back and he's like, "Hey, I have a meeting scheduled on January 26th, 2018." He's like, "Come on down." And he goes, "I live in such and such place." He's like, "I'll take a train. I'll fly." He goes, "I'll meet you there in Philadelphia." And I'm like, "Okay." So we took everything we had and we went to the FBI and presented everything with them, and yeah, they got involved really quick. So I can't say too much more about this right now. But yeah, yeah. Um, a legend, a myth, a legend, a story, something that people said for years that it never existed, it never happened. We we found documentations, we found um, records. We had a lot of information that we presented, and hey, if it didn't happen, then I don't know why the FBI wanted to get involved. Yep, yep, yep. And like you've seen in some other news releases and news reports and everything, they came in and they dug. They dug. What took the FBI a night to dig with an excavator, people thought that they could do with some shovels. It wasn't possible. Like I said, everybody's like, "Oh, me and my buddy with a case of beer would have dug that in one night." No, you wouldn't have. No, you wouldn't have. Um, the whole legend back then said that it was only supposed to be 26, 52 bars of gold. A bar of gold weighs about 50 pounds. You know, 50, just for easy math, like 50 bars at 50 pounds, it doesn't weigh 7 to 9 tons. And so when the FBI, they had a third party contractor come in, and they used their equipment, a gravimeter, and they scanned down. They got a 99% positive reading of 7 to 9 tons of gold and silver were there. So the whole time I'm telling you the story, I keep telling you gold, gold, silver, gold, gold, silver, silver, gold. Where did the silver come from? We were getting silver readings there this entire time, and it was confirmed that there was silver readings there, which solidifies, validates Warren Gettler's theory about it being a KGC treasure trove. If the gold shipment did come through that area and the KGC Southern sympathizers during the Civil War were up north, which we're currently working on, and they intercepted this wagon train, they could have looted it and killed off the soldiers and stashed this gold, the gold bars with gold and silver that they had looted from other places. So, so yeah, Yeah, I never knew anything about the KGC until Warren Gettler got in touch. He does have a book. It's called Rebel Gold, and he has another one called the Sentinel. It's kind of like about KGC offspring and how the KGC is still operating to this day. But no, we have been very active. I know it's not a whole lot in the news right now, and we don't put a lot on Facebook or on YouTube. We do want to get our YouTube channel going again. Uh, there's a lot of information that I haven't told you that we want to put out there on our YouTube channel. So, but just know that we are staying active. We do have other sites. A few years ago, Popular Mechanics Magazine came in and did an article on us when we were out at a site where we believe we located the KGC hideout, the main headquarters up north here in central Pennsylvania. We believe that um, the Confederates were trying to get this far north to get to this location, and that's why the Battle of Gettysburg broke out. If the Confederates would have gotten this far north to where all these KGC treasure troves are hidden, it probably could have turned the Civil War around. That's a theory we're working on. We have a lot of supporting facts about it. um, Another reason, just not because of the court reading or the court process, that we're not putting a whole lot online. We're some currently working with a film and TV production crew right now. Uh, Hopefully that's going good. We're keeping our fingers crossed. I can't mention any names or any networks or anything like that right now. But in the next few months, we're going to come out with a lot more information. It's either going to be on TV or it's going to be on our YouTube channel.
That's great. That's great. Now, I mean, I spoke with people that were up around the time when they came in, put fences up, and they were just amazed how many even armored trucks came up.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, truck after truck after truck, and it's a pretty amazing story. And it's like a non-ending story. I can't wait to hear the. This is still more's coming out.
Well, like I said, we everybody wants to know what's been happening. What's been happening? It's been 5 or 6 years, 6 years here in a few weeks since the dig because it happened in March 13th, 14th, 15th in 2018. So we're coming up on 6 years. We keep filing right to know, Freedom of Information Act paperwork. Ann Wiseman, a well known attorney for a watchdog group, she came out of retirement to help us with this case. We've been filing paperwork. We're trying to get the ball rolling. It's just whenever you go through court proceedings, you're always allowed to request extension. And somebody in this process keeps filing for extensions and keeps dragging it out, and not they're not producing documents that they're supposed to be doing. So it's a tedious process. It's taken a while. Hopefully, it's coming to an end here soon. I know. Sometimes I'm with my friends or at work or my dad, and my face pops up on the news or whatever on TV, and people are like, "Oh, this again. We're still talking about this stupid gold." Like, trust me, we're tired about it too. We want it to end. You know, something's got to happen, but it's been a tedious standstill for the past 6 years, and it, I think it's about to come to an end here really soon.
Wow. Okay, tell the audience where they can follow you, the different outlets, social media you
So,
can.
yes, yes. I mean, obviously, me and my dad, we do have our personal Facebook pages. We get friend requests from people all the time. We're really hesitant on just adding random strangers to our Facebook profiles. However, we have several Facebook groups. Dench Run. We have our Finders Keepers USA page. We do have our Finders Keepers USA YouTube channel. We have a website, www.finderskeepersusa.com. However, I've run into a problem with my web hoster within the past year. I was going through Yahoo and Yahoo Business, and they sold out to Turbify. And
Yeah.
I was aware, but when everything transitioned, the format that our website was done in didn't carry over to Turbify, and now there's no website. If you go to our website, it's a black screen. It says currently under construction. Check back soon. I'm not a web designer. I mean, if anybody in your audience wants to, hey, I wouldn't mind helping you out or doing your web design, or I mean, we'd be willing to pay. I mean, we're putting a lot of money into our legal fees and everything, so it's not like we can dish out hundreds of dollars, or anything like that. But if somebody in college wants to do a web design for a project or something like that, reach out to us. We're always willing to try to help people out. If doing our website helps somebody in college, whatever, hey, because that's how the last website got done. I reached out to web design class at Penn State University, and they posted it, and a college student reached out to us, and we did pay the college student. I mean, we're just looking for free handouts, but um, you can email us. Um, our one email address is finderskeepersusa@yahoo.com. Mine is my name, Kem, Kem dot Parada, Parada, at finderskeepersusa.com. You can email me. Uh, if you're interested in doing the website, send some pictures or send some links to websites that have been done. I'll talk with my dad. We can select somebody. We like the website that we used to have with the gold coins in the background and the same logos. So, I mean, if something like that similar could have been done, but yeah, unfortunately, that's our website right now. It's just a black.
Very cool. Now I know you were in law enforcement, but you also have a little taste of acting as well. You do that a
Yep,
little bit.
yep. The very first TV show we did there, America Unearthed, was through the History Channel. That was in 2012. After the FBI dig happened, we got contacted and flown up to Toronto, New York, or Toronto, Canada. We did a TV show there. I can't remember what that show was called. You mentioned it earlier.
Unexplained.
Yeah, America,
America's Lost Treasures.
his biggest mysteries or something like that. I can't remember, but it was like the Canadian version of Travel Channel. I've only seen the show like two times. I hardly ever seen it in America. Um, we've always done tons of news reports and everything, but I always wanted to kind of like get into acting. And then one day, this friend of mine, I used to work with this friend at Lowe's. His name was, what was his name, Ron?
I don't know.
Ron, that's it. Ron, my buddy Ron Frazier got in touch with me and says, "Hey, you like to do some acting? Here's some acting roles that they're looking for." And I said, "Ah." I passed on like one or two. I looked into it. I was like, "Nah, it's not for me." I said, "You know what? I'm gonna do it." So I submitted for the background role of. It was a background role in um, Manhunt. Um, it was a Netflix show. The season one was called Manhunt Unabomber, and it was based on the Unabomber. Well, season two was called Manhunt Deadly Games. It was based on the 1996 Olympic bombing. I put in for it. I just wanted to, background, just something, just to have some fun, make a little extra cash. I applied for the GBI, Georgia Bureau Investigators position, and I got casted in it. I was like, holy cow! They're filming in Monroeville here outside of Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. So I was working night shift. I was getting done. I was driving down to Monroeville. I was, doing some background rules here for the bombing scene at the Olympics. During the concert, I was playing the GBI agent at that time. I created a profile with my application and everything like that. It said I was working in law enforcement, and the casting director came up to me. She was like, "Hey, you're Kem Parada," and I said, "Yeah." She goes, "You're on your profile. It says you're a police officer." And I was, "Yeah." She goes, "How would you like to play the role of an FBI SWAT for the show?" Ironically, FBI SWAT. I'm like, I'm in. Let's do it.
Right.
So,
Just
yeah,
never know.
So I started doing the role of FBI SWAT agent, and I'm telling you, it was one of the coolest summers I did. Just wearing the old green jumpsuit, wearing the vest and everything. I was working right there with Gethin Anthony and Kenny Jarrett, who were the two main FBI agents. They were the two main actors for the FBI agents in the role. If you look at the picture of them, they're standing there, and there's a bunch of us SWAT team stacked up behind them. Like my face is right between them. Yeah, like it was awesome. Just using the training that I got from my career and pretty much just practicing and just rehearsing and everything like that. I mean, it was cool. Just stacking up and doing the filming, doing the black SUVs that were driven by stunt drivers. And I was in there like, man, it was the coolest summer I ever had. And it was all thanks to you. Uh, Doing that, I got my IMDb profile. I did cast or applied for some other things. I got my picture in a McDonald's commercial and got casted for some. I got casted for a police officer in the show Ozark and a construction worker for the show Stranger Things. And they were filming a week apart in Atlanta, Georgia. And I was so committed. Like, I was going to buy my plane tickets and everything. I was going to go down there and I was going to do these roles. And I came down with COVID.
Uh,
And I had to opt out of it. I was so mad. COVID killed a lot of the acting industry at that time in 2020. And it put a kibosh on my acting career because I was active. I was getting there and I was, you know, doing it, but that kiboshed a lot of it. Um,
I
but yeah,
I just knew that you would be a perfect fit for
yes,
anything in film in that genre, if you will.
oh
Uh,
yeah,
Hey, before we go, I want to throw up and give your dad some recognition too here, um, Mr. Dennis Parada.
yeah. That picture that you have up right now, I, they use that photo for everything, and I hate it. Because my dad's sitting there talking and I'm standing in the background. It was like 98 degrees out. I was hot. I was miserable. I did not know he was taking that picture. That's why I was so gloomy and depressed. I was actually ticked off. I was so mad because I'm like, come on, hurry up. Let's get this going. Like, I was just exhausted. And they use that photo for everything. And my dad laughs because he knows I hate it.
I
Yeah.
see it everywhere.
Yes, that's my dad and Scott Walter. That's when we were on they were up there on the dock up in Nova Scotia.
I mean, people don't realize unless you actually see Nova Scotia on a map. I mean, you are out way out in the ocean for
Oh,
real.
yeah. Yep. Yep. I am a certified diver, so I would like to get more into like diving. However, my dad, he's a land-based creature. He does not want anything to do with the water.
Uh, well, any parting words? I really appreciate you coming on, Kem. What an interesting story, and enjoying watching your path. You know.
Yep. Thank you. Nope. 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 I mean, like I said, I'm holding back a lot of information. I would love to tell you, but for right now, I can't tell you. Um, I would love to get back on our YouTube channel and to post stuff. I know everybody gets on there and they see the one or two videos and they comment like, "We need an update. We need something." And it's like, "I'm sorry, I can't. We would love to. We'd love to do more TikToks. It's right now we're kind of tied up, and it's for good reasons. It's
Right,
for,
right.
I will tell you this. In about 2-3 weeks, we're I don't know if you want to call it a sizzler or a pilot, but something's gonna get filmed here in the next few
All
weeks.
right.
Hopefully it takes off. No promises, no guarantees.
That's awesome. And on that note, I would like to thank everybody for tuning in and watching. Leave your comments, show the love to Kem, Finders Keepers USA. Um, please like, share, and subscribe. It's very important if you subscribe. It really helps the channel. Share it. Write your comments. Thanks again, Kem. Appreciate it, buddy.
No problem. You have a good one, bud.
All right. Everybody have a great day now.